This is the Outlap F1 podcast featuring America's own Cody, Andy, and Deanna. Your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. Join us on the Outlap. Break out the sandals, the shades, and your other beach-going gear because we're headed to Miami, baby. Welcome on in. This is the Outlap F1 podcast. This is season 7, episode not unlucky 13. We're glad you're here. It's our 2025 Miami GP preview show, and you've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight. It's quite been beach-worthy weather yet in Chicago, but we have hints of it. Like, we'll get a day where it'll suddenly like get into the 80s and then it'll drop like 20 degrees by the end of the day. But anyway, it's nice to have Formula One in our continent. But Cody, how does this find you on this fine, relatively quiet? There's been a lot of weather around Wednesday night.
It's been pretty normal. I'm just looking forward to getting some time off work, getting to go see some rock concerts. It'll be great. I did get out and enjoy that one beautiful 80-something degree day that we had, and now it's back to being normal springtime weather. It is actually episode 12. I was sitting here panicking for a second, being like, did I update the episode number? And then I went ahead and updated it on the fly and then checked again. It was like, oops. So
lucky
episode
12,
will be,
lucky episode
lucky
number 12. Kimi Antonelli, this may be your race. Let's put it that way. It was episode 12. I saw you change it. Just to break the fourth wall for just a minute, I saw you change it and thought I went with it, and I thought I was picking you up. But thank you for clarifying there. But anyway, we can count, and we'd like to do that. And if you have found our show and you're still listening, thank you, and welcome along. You can find us and our other 11 episodes this season on all your favorite podcasting platforms. As always, you can always find us on social media at the following places: on Blue Sky, on X, sometimes on Instagram, a little bit on Discord, Reddit, and of course here on YouTube. At Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all of those places. If you still enjoy what you're watching and you like what you're hearing, if you want to leave us a like or a subscribe on YouTube, that would be great. If you're on your favorite podcasting app, a 5-star review would definitely help us out a lot. Why do people ask you to do that? It's just so that we come up a little bit better if people are searching for content like this, to come up a little bit better in search results. So that's why everybody asks you to do those things. If you are so inclined, we would be appreciative of that. You can email the show, outlapf1@gmail.com. We'll definitely get your message to us. Outlap F1 Nation, who continues to support us. Thank you so much to Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to become a member of that, what we call the hashtag Outlap F1 Nation, get a shout out, help support the show. There is an anchor page. It is a monetary donation. If you'd like to do that, you do not have to do that at all. But if you'd like to do that, what that does is helps us keep our technology as relevant as we can. Helps us upgrade our video equipment, our audio equipment, the lovely recording platform that we're on, all of that good stuff, trying to keep it as relevant as we can as Formula One moves at the speed of light. So do we want to do that as well. All right. Particulars now out of the way. There's a little bit of news that happened over the course of the small little break. We've only had a week break. We had 5 races in 6 weeks, and now we're going to go right into Miami, and then it's a week break, and then Imola, and then we're into Monaco, and then coming at us fast and furious. So this season is not going anywhere anytime soon, and we're going to be riding the roller coaster with you. But the big news, at least in terms of American racing, it's 2 big stories that happened. One, GM is now officially minted as a formal engine supplier. The FIA has approved it. FOM has approved it. So starting in 2029, expect to see a GM branded engine as an engine supplier along in the mix. The other thing that's going to happen is Cadillac is taking the Miami GP weekend as an opportunity to reveal its 2026 livery a year plus out. So this is going to be a new thing that not necessarily have seen before. We're not going to have to wait till February next year to see what the Cadillac car looks like. We're going to know what it looks like. We don't know what it's actually going like what the car itself is going to look like because obviously new rules. I assume it's going to be the FIA standard car with a Cadillac livery on it, but we're going to find out what that looks like. The rumors as to who's going to sit in that seat. If you are a Sergio Checo Perez fan and you are annoyed that you do not see him on the grid, you may not need to be annoyed that much longer. He has been heavily rumored to be a candidate for one of the two seats. The other name that I hear bandied about a ton, Zhao Guanyu. Notice the commonality between these two. They are both heavily well sponsored and heavily well funded for a new team starting out. No indication as yet as to whether they will commit to an American driver. They have not done anything like that, at least not as yet. Colton Herta's name obviously still floating around as well. But Cody, big thoughts here on GM, Cadillac. What do we think the car is going to look like? Any other thoughts on it? What you got?
I'm really looking forward to seeing the livery because I think that'll really make this real in a lot of people's minds. You see the car and you see it with that probably big Cadillac badge somewhere on it, and you think, okay, this is the real deal. We're actually getting the 11th team. Finally, there is at least a model of a car that we can look at. Um, as far as the drivers go, I have been hearing so many rumors about Sergio Perez certainly being linked to the team. Would not be surprised if Zhou Guanyu is in there as well. That would give you a really good mix of drivers that have Formula One experience, one who's younger but still has several seasons of experience behind him, and then Sergio Perez, who has many seasons of experience behind him. And as we are seeing as more and more drivers are going through that Red Bull seat that maybe Perez really wasn't at the end of his career. Maybe he really does still have it. And there was a lot more of it to do with the car than even we believed at the time. So I think it would be great for him to end up in that seat and get to show that maybe he still got it. Um, I'm looking forward to that. As far as the engine not coming until 2029. That is a bit of a strange one to me because that means we're going to be, that'll be the fourth season of these engine regs. So I think that's a little bit of an odd choice. Since it's so far into the new engine regs, a lot of the other teams that have already fielded their engines will, I feel like, have a significant head start on them unless they're anticipating that maybe the engines will be different by that point, which we've talked about several
Yeah,
times that we really
that was
don't
going to
know
be my
how.
that was going to be my
Yeah,
counter question was do we think they're actually going to make the engine with the 50-50 hybrid split or are they making something else? Because
I would have to think that they're uh, gonna be waiting to see how this first season or two goes, how the teams and regulating bodies decide that they want to handle these new regulations if they really run into as many issues as uh, they're rumored to be running into. Yeah, I think that gives them a chance to see maybe what they got to do and see if maybe they should be putting their efforts elsewhere if it looks like the regulations might be changing. If these regulations do stick around for the future, though, I do think it's a little odd to be waiting that far in because if you're fueling an engine in 2029, after teams have had 3 full seasons of, on track activity to iron out all the kinks on their engines, I think they're going to be pretty far on the back foot. But that's quite a ways down the road. So we've got plenty of time for them to say, oh, we're going to kick it out another year or two because the regulations are changing and we don't want to put all this money into an engine that's only going to be used for one season. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. The good news is the shiny part that the FI or that FOM wanted was an extra engine supplier in the mix. They're gonna get there. We are gonna have our 11th team. That's also a good thing. I will say that every time I want to read another engine story, I'm nervous. But the other thing I have to remember is there are always doomsday sayers about every new Formula One formula all the time. Um, Even the ones that work out great at the end of it. Now, it took people a long time to finally get parity when we went to the hybrids. That took, I think, a lot longer than everybody anticipated, and it took 7 years, and it took a COVID pause, and we finally got it basically right in 2021. And then what do we do? Oops, we changed the rules, and then we've got this set of regulations, and now we're finally getting to parity, and we're finally getting to competitiveness, and we've got one out of maybe six drivers who could win on any given weekend. And what are we going to do? Well, boop, change the rules again. So this is unfortunately nothing new to the sport. Each formula has had its positives, its negatives, and I mean, I was on those hybrids the first time when we had cars not even making the starting grid in Melbourne, and you know, you had teams doing 20 laps in a day of testing, which is just unheard of given what we just watched in the 3-day Bahrain test, where they're doing, if you were under 100 laps, they said they thought something was wrong with your car, which was, it's just kind of crazy how much reliability they built into this engine mix. So I don't know. We're gonna wait and see. I think is what the answer is we're gonna see what happens. Um the post Abu Dhabi test is going to be probably your first indication of maybe something, because then you may see some mule cars or some 50% old regs, 50% new regs type of thing, trying to get ready, at least for the tire sake. And then those first tests are going to be, it's going to be some appointment television to watch, an empty arena, but cars drone around. And where do we shake out with all this? So it's just going to be amazing to try to see. And again, my thing is that if it sucks, they're going to do things to try to make it not suck, because
Yes, they have already agreed to that.
yeah, they've already kind of said we're not going to just let this play out and have one team or one engine be so far in front of the others that they're not going to do anything about it. So, um, like I said, we're just going to have to kind of watch this and have it play out. So, if you are still annoyed that Sergio Perez is not on the grid, you have another reason to possibly get excited that he may be coming back. And that is because the Mexico City GP, of which he is, I don't know if you could say walking god. Maybe Max, and when they go to the Netherlands, is pretty close to walking god status. This is about as close as you can get to walking god. So Sergio Perez in Mexico City, that race will continue beyond this year. I think this was actually the last year of the contract. But they have now been given a 3-year extension. So 26, 27, and 28 are secured for that race to remain on the calendar. I love your note that you've got in the show doc here, Cody. Again, more rumors of Perez's return abound. But Cody, thoughts on Mexico City securing its spot on the calendar?
Yeah, this one really kind of sealed it in for me that I think we're going to see Sergio Perez announced as one of the drivers for Cadillac, because, as I said a minute ago, it lines up pretty well in terms of the experience, him probably wanting to come back to the sport. Miami is relatively close to home, so it's a good time to make that announcement along with Cadillac making their announcement. And yeah, the fact that the Mexico City Grand Prix extension has been announced right now makes me think that we're about to hear Sergio Perez signed through 2028 at Cadillac. It's not my favorite track. It does have a tendency to be a bit of a stinker when it comes to the races. And it seems that the only reason it has been on the calendar for a while is because Sergio Perez was on the grid, and he is wildly popular there, as you were saying. So I thought maybe it would be going away with him not being on the grid anymore. But this is the opportunity for him to come back, which means that there is going to be an audience for that race, at least for the next few years, if he is signed. So I've got a funny feeling we're going to be on the review talking about, oh, yeah, it was clear as day. Well, we've got a few days before we make that official.
Yeah, no, again, that does not surprise me. I mean, it fits. It totally fits to have Sergio slot into that team. Like I said, he's well funded. He's going to bring money. He brings obviously some cachet with him, and he's got a buttload of experience. And when you're trying to figure out a new operation, that's kind of what you want. And he's going to have something to prove. He's going to have a bit of a chip on his shoulder. So, you're going to get the best that I think you're going to, whatever is left in the tank. And, as we talked about, obviously maybe now that second Red Bull seat kind of says it's less about the driver and more about the car type of situation. Maybe there is something definitely still left in the tank. I'm not sure. We're going to find out. We're going to find out next year. It's a new mix. If Cadillac can come in, and I think they're in Mercedes power next year. So I think,
I think they're actually Ferrari power.
oh, they're Ferrari power. Okay, well that could be good too. I mean, again, we have no idea what any of these engines are going to be, but at least it's an established. It's not an Audi. I'm more
Yeah.
worried about an Audi engine or the Honda engine. At least at this point, it seems like the Mercedes and the Ferraris are okay. From again what rumors were coming down the pipe here, but yeah, we're gonna see. We're gonna see what he has to have, and if you're a Checo fan, you should get excited because I have a funny feeling you're gonna. I would bet by the summer break we're probably gonna get an announcement. If they're revealing the livery this far out, it would make sense for them to try to do that to try to build as much hype around that team as they can. So we'll follow it and we'll report when we have something for sure. All right, so turning our attention to this weekend, a little bit. There are a bunch, and this is not surprising for a race in the United States. Take your normal liveries and throw them out because let the artists come in and do their thing. And some of them have done better jobs than others. We have, at least at this point, 3 special liveries that have been revealed. We have V Carb, we have Kick Sauber, and then we have Ferrari. And oh my, are we going to talk about Ferrari? The V Carb one, let's start with the good. The V Carb one, I have to say, gives me a bunch of Barbie feel, if I'm honest, but it works. It works. It's pink. It's got the gray of, the bull from Red Bull in there. I like the livery. I think it makes sense. I'm surprised that Alpine hasn't filed a protest with their BWT sponsorship. But Cody, what's your thought?
Yeah, it definitely has that hot, striking pink look to it, which I think the shock factor is a little undone by the fact that we've had pink cars for quite a few years now coming from Alpine. So you don't have quite that shock factor, but it is really bright, which is, it's pretty cool. It's kind of one of the color schemes that Miami's known for, kind of that electric blue pink combination that we've actually seen on
I'm
the Alpine.
I'm gonna try
Done quite
something.
well.
I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna hit a button, and maybe we can actually show everybody on YouTube what we're actually seeing about this. So hang on. Let's see if this actually works.
Pushing the buttons is a
I'm
scary
pushing
thought.
buttons. I'm doing stuff. Let's see. Let's try that. And let's try. Oh, come on. There we go. There we go. Oh, I like this. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Can you
Hey,
see?
whoa!
It's the V carb. There you go.
Technology at its finest. Wow.
Hey, figuring out buttons. This is what your
This is
donations
actually
go
a shot
for.
of it that I hadn't seen before. There's a lot more that like white and gray on there, or silver on there, than I saw before. The silver bowl on there is actually really sweet.
So this is the V carb. I go to the back button. Now we're going to show you the Sauber. Let's see. This is from Planet
The
F1.
Sauber one, I think, is a little underwhelming because it doesn't look that much different. I mean, the paint splatter side of it is kind of a cool effect, but it's really pretty much all the same colors. I think all in all, it'll probably look a little better than the normal livery because the normal livery looked really good during the reveal, and then we saw it on track, and it doesn't have quite as much of the fade effect on it as we were expecting to see. Looks cool under the lights. In the daytime, maybe not so much, but it'll be a bit of a fun one, I guess. But that's about where the good
I was going to
ends
say the
so
good.
far.
I wanted to preface this with the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think we're going to skip the bad and we're going to go straight to the ugly. Hang on, I have to cue this and give it its proper thing. Hang on, let me get this up on my screen here. Oh, good lord. They had to do it. They just had to do
You're
it.
not mind the man behind the curtain.
Yes, hang on. Okay, I got to redo this again. Oh, you can do that. Ooh, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. So, all right, here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the racer Ferrari. Ay, ay, ay. Wow. Uh, just wow. Is it so hard to make it not be red if you're going to go with the blue thing? The race suits are so cool looking. Their race suits and stuff that they did last year was so cool. And then this year we get this. Oi. Uh, all right, I'm going to hide the eyes anymore. Cody, what's your take on this thing? Oh my.
It's really ugly. They keep teasing something great. Back in, what was it, like the 50s, I think? Ferrari did like a one-time thing where they did a blue and white car in the United States for a race, and I think they keep teasing that now that they've got HP, which is known for a blue and white logo. They keep teasing that over the last couple of years that they might do something like that, and then we get really underwhelmed because what we end up getting is, oh, you made the wing white and blue with the HP logos, and it's like just the teeniest, tiniest hint of color, which doesn't look super great against the normal red of the Ferrari. It always kind of looks a little half-assed. But this time they took it to the next level. They literally just took like the back pod of the car, and it feels like they just slapped on the HP colors. It's not even like there's not like a fade
No.
or anything. It's in this
It's the
weird
it's
spot
the
of being
close,
like,
right. It's the
yeah,
closest thing, like, even their normal livery, we said the HP was too much. Like, why is it that much blue? And now you have the opportunity, you might as well just go all in, and then you don't. And you do something that's almost akin to the old BAR Honda with the thing right down the middle, because that's the vibe I keep getting. Except now, instead of going right down the middle, we've discussed this, we've come up with this new 45-degree angle thing that just I don't get it. I don't get it. I
yeah.
mean,
And
it's
like you said, the race suits look great.
yeah,
Just do that, but the whole car for one weekend.
yeah.
Then you can go back to red, and no one's gonna think that you've upended the universe here. It's
No,
gonna be fine.
everyone will still know a Ferrari is a red car. Um, yeah. The other thing we were talking about this in the pre-show. Not that I feel bad even being sarcastic about this, but could you imagine if Lewis Hamilton were somehow by some miracle were to win this race and it's his first real win in a Ferrari and he's in that car and that's the car that has to get all of the pictures
Yeah,
with
a
him
lot of
on it.
drivers, if they've got the means to do so, they like to have the chassis for their first win or for their championship. And, I'm sure if Lewis won with this car, he'd be like, man, do I really got to keep this one? I don't know.
I think if he wins, he's going to fall in love with it. It's just like, anything. But
Yeah.
still, he's a very stylish guy. And it'd be odd to see that being the car that he gets his first win in. But let's just say, as a it's complete neutral, let me step back a bit. Let me take my hat off for a second. If he did, I think it would be a great thing. Especially here in the U.S., it'd be a great story. So,
Yeah, it would
let,
be another one of those. Everyone liked that moment
right,
like we had in Great Britain.
right, exactly. Everyone would get behind it. But yeah. So we're gonna see some odd beach themed cars and one that looks like an eraser. But anyway, moving on. Last story before we hop into our Miami GP track facts. We got a sneak preview of the Madrid F1 circuit, which will be replacing Catalonia, I think, after next season. I think last 26 is, I think, the last year for Catalonia, and then we're going to the Madrid street circuit. Where Carlos Sainz Jr. is the now official ambassador and was talking it up on I think before the blackout happened in Madrid on Monday. But I love your notes on this one. It definitely feels like a street circuit. It definitely feels like it's turning, and you keep turning, and you're turning, and you're turning a little bit, and you're turning a little bit. Not quite as weird as Saudi Arabia, but maybe not that far off. But Cody, what's your thought?
Saudi Arabia is kind of in that weird, like, it's technically a street circuit, but it really doesn't feel like a street circuit. This one, like you look at the map for it, and it looks like a kind of a weird Azerbaijan-esque layout, and they actually do go through uh, a handful of roundabouts on the track at certain spots, which kind of cracks me up. It's like, thinking about like an F1 car sitting in traffic waiting to get in the roundabout type thing. But I was trying to look at it through the eyes of, will the racing be good? Because, there are some street circuits that have good racing. Uh, Looking at it, to me, there's only, what I could tell, really like two good hard braking zones for, big DRS and like passing opportunities. And obviously by the time we get there, we're not going to have DRS in the normal sense anymore, but still hard braking zones are always a big one for passing attempts. And there's really only two of those that I could pick out. Uh, I don't want to trash it just yet because we haven't seen it yet. I have heard that the location does not really lend to uh, the beautiful views of Madrid that we might be expecting to see. And that's really, in my opinion, the whole reason you should do a street circuit is you want to like show off the beautiful parts of your city. Like Las Vegas, it goes right down the strip. Azerbaijan, it's got like the castle section, and it goes
Right.
through like really cool like architectural areas of the city. Uh, we don't want stuff where it's like, we're going to Miami this weekend, and it's pretty much a parking lot for the football stadium, and they try to like spice it up and all that. But really, I've heard that there is a risk of it being like that for Madrid, where it's
Yeah, I
not
mean,
like
it's
in the most beautiful part of the
yeah.
city. But again, I don't want to trash it until they've actually been there and we've seen a race. And then if the racing sucks and the views aren't great, then you can be like, why did we do this? We had an actual purpose built racetrack in Spain that we were racing at that, yeah, maybe doesn't have the greatest racing for these cars. We're
Yeah.
going to new cars. It might have been better, but
The,
alas, we'll
the,
just
the
have to wait
fear
and
to
see what
me
they got.
is something that IndyCar actually did with Detroit. And IndyCar used to race on Belle Isle, and you and I have gone to Belle Isle a couple times. I loved that circuit.
Belle
Um,
Isle was cool.
Belle Isle, it was on an island. You're literally right at the border of the U.S. and Canada. You're north of town a little bit, so you can see the downtown. You've got the boats. You've got picturesque all over the place, especially when the weather's good and it's nice and forested, and it looks it's a cool place to go watch a race. And then they moved back into the Detroit downtown, which feels cramped, and because there's giant tall buildings everywhere, there's not good places for grandstands. And yeah, they try to make it a spectacle, but it doesn't ring true to me. It doesn't ring the same where you had this natural thing. I got a funny feeling, at least that, because the parts of Madrid where you'd love to have it, you can't, probably because they're so narrow and you can't close them off for long. And you gotta, as a city, you for F1, you gotta shut it down for a good almost 6 weeks, to build it and get the grandstands and everything up. It's a big undertaking for a city. I mean, when NASCAR comes to Chicago, it's a weekend, but let me tell you, the week that they're doing it, you don't want to be anywhere downtown or trying to be driving anywhere around anywhere near that place, because every place that you would normally think you would be able to go is closed, or you're diverted, or it's detoured, and you don't know where anything is, and you really don't know what's up. And hey, we're just trying to live here. So it's a big undertaking. I'm not going to slam it. I saw simulations of Vegas, and nobody liked those when we were at this kind of stage. I said the same thing about Saudi Arabia. I just said, oh, it's constantly left, right, and where are you going to pass? And we figured out, these cars figured out ways to make it good racing. So I'm not going to slam it until I see it in person, but I sure hope that we don't just keep constantly turning, because that's not, I think, good for Formula One racing. But anyway, I'm open to seeing what happens. All right. Well, that will kind of conclude the news. We're going to take a quick break. We will hop on back in. We'll put the extent of our beach gear on. We will talk about the Miami International Autodrome, the fake marina, and all that other fun. And then we're going to try to figure out one, what the weather's going to do, because it looks to be a little unpredictable. So something we have not had before in a Miami GP, a real legit threat of rain. So we're going to talk about that when we cover the weather, and then we're going to take our stabs at what we think is going to happen. Cody has not made my life easy in the predictions. He's having us do the first 6, all the way 1 to 6. So let's see how good or bad we can pick a race result here. So come on back. We'll get into it in just a little bit.
You are listening to the Outlap F1 podcast, and we'll be right back after this quick pit stop. Grab your flu powder, broomstick, or apparate to your favorite audio streaming service to join the discussion on Hogwarts, a podcast, where Dan and his friends have in-depth chapter-by-chapter breakdowns of each Harry Potter novel. Join the group as they dive into the magical world and discuss plot points, analyze character development, and occasionally go off the rails. Whether you're a muggle who's new to the series or a pure-blood wizard who won't need a remember-all, Hogwarts, a podcast, brings everyone to the Great Hall for a magical discussion. Hogwarts, a podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back on in. This is season 7, episode number 12 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2025 Miami GP preview show. You've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight, and we just kind of got you caught up on the latest news. We looked at some of the special liveries for Miami. We gasped at the Ferrari one, but that's not a surprise to anybody. But now we're going to turn our attention to this weekend proper. We have a race. We have a sprint weekend. It's going to be lots of sessions, lots of results, lots of good things to cover. And we're going to talk about the Miami GP track facts because that's where we're going. The Miami International Autodrome awaits. Cody, tell us about it.
All right, this weekend, Formula One comes to the United States in Miami for the Miami Grand Prix at the Miami International Autodrome, located in Miami Gardens in Florida. Number of laps for the Grand Prix is going to be 57, and the length of the circuit is 5.412 kilometers. That's 3.362 miles, and it consists of 19 turns. The tire selection from Pirelli this year is going to be C3 for hard, C4 for medium, and C5 for soft, which is a grade softer than it was last year. So that might come into play a little bit this weekend. And the track characteristics from Pirelli are a 3 out of 5 for traction, 3 out of 5 for braking, 3 out of 5 for tire stress, 3 out of 5 for lateral load. I promise they're not all right down the middle. 5 out of 5 for track evolution, 4 out of 5 for asphalt grip, 2 out of 5 for asphalt abrasion, and a 3 out of 5 for downforce. The qualifying lap record here was set by Sergio Perez in 2023 with a 1 minute 26.841 seconds, and the race lap record was set by Max Verstappen in the same season with a 1 minute 29.708. Most wins at this circuit is going to go to Max Verstappen with a whopping 2. But we do have a new winner since last year. That was Lando Norris, who took the win last year, so he is sitting there with 1. He might be able to tie it up this year if he can pull it off. Most constructor wins here is going to be those 2 for Red Bull that were won by Max Verstappen, followed by the 1 for McLaren. What's the circuit like, Andy?
All right. With the Hard Rock Stadium as the epicenter, the 5.1 kilometer layout will feature 19 corners, 3 straights, potentially 3 DRS zones, and an estimated top speed of 320 kilometers an hour. There are some elevation changes too. The main one found between turns 13 and 16, with the track heading over an exit ramp and under various flyovers across some uneven ground. The turn 14 and 15 chicane, meanwhile, has an uphill approach with a crest in the middle, and then it drops down on the exit. Because we have a sprint weekend on tap, we are giving you 3 days of weather because it is significant for each session. So our Friday, our sprint qualifying session, will be sunshine along with cloudy intervals. Also very hot across the 3 days. High of 85. Winds out of the east-southeast at 10 to 15. A scant 10% chance of rain. But for Saturday, a few clouds coming in from time to time. Again, still really hot. High of 86. Winds again out of that southeast, 5 to 10. A 30% chance of a potential shower. And for Sunday, mainly sunny skies, but with some scattered thunderstorms. Hello. That would be something we don't usually see in F1. A high of 86. So hot and maybe drenching rain. Who knows? Winds out of the east at 5 to 10. Right now, it's still showing a 40% chance of rain. So when does the rain hit? How intense does it hit? Does it hit? Do we have something like Melbourne? Or do we have something like Bahrain in testing where it's just, sprinkly bits? Questions will be answered. Miami weather is never consistent. It's a lot like it is here. If you don't like it, wait 5 minutes. It's going to change. I would expect it to be hot. And then the question is, does it bubble up enough to potentially produce a thunderstorm? If it does produce a thunderstorm, you may see a red flag because they have to stop everything, especially if there's lightning. So
I would love to see a wet track because I think Max Verstappen is going to need some help this weekend.
It would definitely play to a lot of cars more strengths to have a cooler, wetter, not as hot track. Let's put it that way. Because, if it's going to be in the mid 80s and it's just going to be hot with a lot of track temperature, that's where the McLaren, I think, wants to eat so far. But anyway, we're going to get into what we think is going to happen this weekend. It's our predictions game, and we will start as we are apt to do with the full race pole sitter. The 2024 pole sitter was, of course, Max Verstappen. So, Cody, who do you have taking the pole here in Miami?
Max Verstappen. He's pulled off a couple miracles so far in the early part of this season, but I don't see it happening here. Like you said, it's going to be really hot, and like I said, it's going to be a grade softer tires. So it's going to be pretty hard on the tires, I think, and the Red Bull does not handle that as well right now. I do think that this is a great opportunity for Lando Norris to take the pole, get some confidence back in him after some mishaps over the last couple of race weekends. But I think he's an easy pick for pole. Maybe not that easy. I mean, he's still got his teammate he's up against, but as good a chance as any.
Yeah. If Max happens to somehow pulls this one off, you're going to see some texts coming your way.
Back on.
I was going to say you're going to see some text flying between the two of us. Let's put it that way. But, this, of course, as soon as I say it, just speak it into existence there, Drew. Watch it happen. I don't think he's going to go that far away, even if they struggle, even if they are bad in practice, even if they are bad in the sprint. They're going to do something to that car, and he's going to be a factor. He's not going away. That having been said, the fact that he's going to get 2 shots at this, Lando Norris doesn't like sprint weekends, but he does like full qualifying on sprint weekends. I'm thinking back to Circuit of the Americas. I'm thinking back it got better with the Chinese Grand Prix, even though but it did get a lot better for him after that, after the sprint kind of debacle there. So the fact that he knows this track, the fact that his teammate kind of still struggled around here last year. Now, it wasn't on race form, it was a collision with Carlos Sainz, and he had to change his wing, and his result doesn't necessarily reflect the form. That having been said, if Lando's going to make a stand, he might as well do it in a place he likes, and I think he's come to like this place, despite the fact that it's bit him on a couple of occasions. So I'm going to go Lando Norris as well to take the pole. I think it's going to be close. It's going to be him and Piastri. If it stays hot, it's going to be him and Piastri dueling it out. I think there will be a bit of a qualifying gap, but not much. All right, and our qualifying pole lap from last year was the 127.241, set, of course, by the aforementioned Max Verstappen. What do we think the pole time is going to be? Is it going to be quicker? Is it going to be slower? We've got a different combination of tires, so that could have something to do with it as well. Another year on this circuit. No new paving that I'm aware of, which is kind of interesting and significant too. So, Cody, what you got for a lap time?
I do think we're going to see faster than last year for sure, because we got the softer tires, we got a little bit improved cars. At first, earlier this year, I was underestimating how much faster they were going, and then I think I started to go too far in the other direction, so I'm going to kind of stick right around that 4 or 5 tenths mark this time. So I'm going to go with a 1 minute 26.773 seconds.
All right, very good. My whole thing, if I'm going to say that Lando's going to get the pole, the whole messaging to him this weekend should be, Give me 98%. Give me 98%, take that 2% and put it on the shelf. I don't think you're going to need it. The car will give it to you. So I'm going to have a pull time a little bit slower than yours, 126.985. I do still think it will be faster than last year because we are a step softer on tires. But if Lando manages to do it, it's got to be because he's taking a little bit off and trusting the car. All right, so for our race podium last year, as we mentioned, Lando Norris did get his first win. He was followed by his good friend Max Verstappen in P2, and Charles Leclerc rounded out the podium in P3 for Ferrari last year. Cody, what do you think? What are we looking at for race podium? What you got?
I do think we're going to see a McLaren win this race. I think we're going to see their strong form in stride here. And I think that since this is where he got his first win, that is, it's going to give Lando that extra confidence he needs to bounce back. So I think he is in a great position to win again this year. I'm not 100% sure it'll be a McLaren 1-2 just because, there's a little bit of that luck factor, and Piastri didn't have the greatest luck here last year. I do think he'll still be on the podium, though. I've got it going Lando Norris, P1, George Russell, P2. He has been consistently on the podium this year. And Oscar Piastri in P3.
All right, very good. I'm going to go full homer. I'm going to go full homer, and I'm going to say it's a McLaren 1-2 because, again, this is really the first place I think we've been to other than Bahrain where it's going to be tough on the tires. We're going to be a step softer. It's going to be hot. If that sun is beating down on that tarmac, and it's going to happen in the middle of the afternoon, there's not, and if it doesn't rain, if it rains, of course, everything could go way up in the air. But I'm going to assume that the rain shower that's going to happen is going to be one of those Miami showers where it went, it rained for 2 seconds, and there's your chance of rain. So I'm going to give this one. Lando Norris comes home in P1 because if he's in the clean air, if he can make it through the first turn, I think he's gone. I think Oscar Piastri shakes off some of the issues that he had, especially with multiple cracks at, especially after the sprint. They're going to tune that car, and that's where the tire wear is going to come in. I think that's going to be this race. Is going to be McLaren's tire wear going to actually be the defining factor here. So I've got Norris in P1, Piastri P2, and George Russell, because when Red Bull is not there, it seems that the Mercedes are there. So I'm going to give it right now to George Russell. And I don't think the Ferraris are going to be all that too far behind, because I've said before, I think their race pace is coming. But given what I think the weather is going to do, that's where I got my podium right now. All right, so for our fastest lap in the driver, the 2024 fastest driver was Oscar Piastri. I remember this lap. It was right after he had to come in and change the front wing. He went out and purpled it, a 130.634 in the clean air. So, Cody, what do you got here for fastest lap time, and who do you have doing it?
I do like the Oscar Piastri quiet rage, where he comes out from something bad and sets the fastest lap or does an amazing pass on Lewis Hamilton, which seems to be the trend this year. But I do have it going to Lando Norris this time out, going off the idea that he's going to get the pole and get the win. Clean air seems to be a big factor with the cars this year. So if he is out front, it's going to put him in a good position to get that fastest lap if he wants it. And that's going to be, I think, with a 1 minute 30.202 seconds.
All right, very good. I'm going to give this one to Oscar Piastri because I think at the end, we're going to see that pace differential where we're going to see, does Oscar get close enough maybe to DRS, and does it pull back? Close and pull back. So I think it's going to be a tense watch, at least for all the McLaren fans out there. I have a funny feeling this one's going to be tense. Do we actually see some ding dong between our two combatants? Maybe this may be the one. And God, just please don't wreck each other. If you're going to fight, but fight fair. Please, dear God, don't wreck each other. I don't want to throw my hat
get
again.
A Max Verstappen win if they wreck each other. So I kind of have to wish for it.
Well, there you go. And there may be a whole lot of other neutrals that may be wishing for that as well. So, here's all the power to you if you get it. But anyway, I'm going to give my fastest lap to Oscar Piastri, a 130, a little bit slower though, 130.879. I don't know that they're going to be hanging it out as much in terms of race pace as they have to, especially if they have an advantage. But we shall see. All right. So bonus picks, as I alluded to before the break, we're picking the first 6 on the grid here. So we got P4, P5, and P6. So this is where it gets really, really interesting. I hemmed and hawed and moved this around like 4 times. Cody, I'll let you go first. What you got here?
Uh, Same thing as you. It thought it could be difficult because of how close those top 4 teams are. But it's so hard to pick these bonus picks, I feel like. So I usually just think about it for a couple seconds and then go with my gut. So that's what I did here. I've got Charles Leclerc coming in P4. As you said, the Ferrari's probably not that far behind. I've got Max Verstappen coming in P5. I really, really hope he finishes up higher than that. But it does seem like even on the days, we saw in Bahrain where uh, the Red Bull is not there, he's still able to put together a decent points finish. So I got him in P5, and then I've got Kimi Antonelli in P6.
All right, very good. I originally had Max in 4th because I'm thinking no matter what happens, he's still going to be there. And then I waffled and I said, well, all right, this is not Red Bull territory. This is where all the smart people say if there's an endemic flaw in the Red Bull car, it's going to be when it's hot and sticky and all that other stuff. So it's going to be a really tough car to drive. They're going to dial it in. Max is going to get the most out of it. I can't get him all the way up to P4, but I do have him in P5. But I've got Charles Leclerc because I keep hounding on this. Ferrari race pace is improving. They're upgrading that car. They're getting better. They're going to be a factor by the end of this season. I'm positive of that. So I got Charles Leclerc coming home in P4. I do have Max Verstappen on a bit of a recovery, I think, coming back home to P5. And Lewis Hamilton, because, again, I think the Ferrari race pace will be superior to his rivals. He'll dial it in enough to come home in P5. And that transitions perfectly into the prop bet because I had to make the prop bet make sense with the grid pick because I wasn't going to do the old Deanna, I'm just hedging and doing something that can't technically happen. So our prop bet is who are we going to think gets more points through the weekend? Now, this counts the sprint too, so that's interesting. Lewis Hamilton or Kimi Antonelli. So is it the old classic Mercedes seat or is it the new Ferrari seat? And who's sitting in it now? Cody, what you got here? I like this pick. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I like this prop bet because we've seen Lewis Hamilton struggling a little bit so far as he's started his time in Ferrari, but the car is improving. Conversely, we've seen Kimi Antonelli come into that Mercedes seat and looks very strong as a rookie. And it's kind of fun to see, who's going to get more points. Is it Lewis Hamilton in his new home or Kimi Antonelli in the seat that he left behind? I personally think it's going to be Kimi Antonelli this weekend, and that does make sense with my bonus picks as well. Also good, as you said, we've got really 2 races this weekend that are going to count toward this. But I think that Mercedes, we've talked about how the Ferrari is improving, but the Mercedes has kind of really been there since the beginning of the season. They haven't gotten the win yet, but especially George Russell has been right there. So I think we're going to see Kimi Antonelli squeeze out a few more points this weekend.
All right, interesting. I if Lewis is going to get on this car, it's got to start to happen now. So I still think there's life in the old Fox left. I'm not ready to abandon him just yet, even though I think this whole Ferrari thing is all about next year. He loves this. He loves to race in America. It's kind of one of those things. He does get an extra gear when he comes here. So I do think he will want to put on the show that he can. And he's going to have the fact that you're going to watch it really evolve from sprint qualifying all the way to the race. The car setup, he's going to be able to really, I think, hopefully dial in the car better towards his driving style. So I'm going to say Lewis Hamilton to get more aggregate points on the weekend. We'll see if I have any basis in logic whatsoever. I tried, but I'm going with Lewis. More of a heart pick than a head pick. Let's just be
Well,
honest.
you're definitely right that he does race well and does like the United States because you've seen your fair share of Lewis Hamilton victories in the U.S. over the years.
Yes, I have. He's dominated in front of especially when I've been there. But yeah, that's very true. So last thing, kind of prop bet number 2, if you actually think about it, it's really more of an extra bet. Who are we going to have for the sprint podium? I do like this here. Last year's sprint podium was Max Verstappen taking the sprint, followed by Charles Leclerc. And remember that name, Sergio Checo Perez. This, I think, was the last, before we got to Azerbaijan, the last race that he was really a factor for a long time. So I'll go first with this one. I do think at the early part of the weekend, I think like these sprint weekends are almost, you can almost take a dividing line. The narratives that go into the first half versus the narratives that go into the second half. Because you have so little time to set up the car, if you are more confident going into it, I think that's going to help you. And there is where I think Oscar Piastri is going to make the difference. He's going to come out. He's going to be better, I think, early. Lando may be better late in the weekend. So I've got Oscar Piastri taking the win in the sprint. Got George Russell coming in second. And I do think this is going to be one of those, everybody's going to go nuts. Lando's only P3 in the sprint. But that's where I got him. P3 in the sprint, and then trying to rally from qualifying onwards. But that's just how he rolls. Anyway, so Cody, what you got for a sprint podium?
I agree with you that I think we're going to see Oscar Piastri get the sprint win. He's more confident in the car right now. I think he'll be getting the better out of the car on a short amount of practice and, quick setup. However, I do think Lando Norris is still going to be pretty close there. I think he's going to come in P2. And Charles Leclerc is another one of those drivers who is able to really extract a lot out of the car, even when the car itself is not perfectly set up. So I think we're going to see him round out the sprint podium.
Yeah. If I'm the coach for Lando and Lewis this weekend, I'm telling both of them, guys, 98%. Just give it 98%. Let the car do the rest. And you'll probably be surprised at what happens to you. You don't have to point it that hard into the corners all the time. But anyway, we're going to see how this all plays out. We will see what the weather does over the course of the weekend. It's going to be very, very blue. If you like the Miami blue, this weekend is definitely going to be for you. So our one sole practice will happen on Friday, and that will be 12:30 p.m. Eastern. ESPNU, ESPN Family and Networks is where you're going to catch all these sessions, as well as, of course, F1 TV if you are in the United States. So ESPNU is your destination for FP1. Sprint qualifying starts at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to do that. I might not be able to live cover that one just because, I have a job and it's kind of right in the middle of it. So ESPN News and ESPN Plus are your places for that. Doesn't mean I'm not going to be watching, but I may have to be monitoring something else while I'm watching. But sprint qualifying sprint race on Saturday kicks off 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern, so 11 a.m. So a bit of a nice, easy, right down the middle time on Big ESPN for that. And then come on back to Big ESPN for the main qualifying on Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. And then the race itself kicks off Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 o'clock p.m. Central on Mothership ABC. So if you want to watch it over the air, if you want to get the livest picture you can do, watch your ABC digital channel over the air. It's the best way probably to watch it. You'll be in front of all of the streaming for sure. You'll be as close to timing as you can get that way. But anyway, so we're going to, I guess it's kind of any other final thoughts before we hop on out?
Just that I'm hoping my cat doesn't destroy my my tiny Red Bull here. Other than that, I've said it, I think, the last couple of years that I've been doing the show with you, that Miami is not my favorite track. And I do think the whole thing with the fake marina and the football parking lot is a little goofy. However, we did get to see last year Lando's first victory, which was a blast and well-deserved. So I do hope we get some more feel-good moments this weekend and, get some sun. Hope for more sun here too.
Yeah, I mean, it is a track that actually every year has gotten slightly, I'm not saying a ton, but the race itself has gotten better every year they've been here. And like I said, I think the best thing that at least the circuit has going for it is we're not having another new resurfacing thing. We had the first year where the track was breaking up. They had to completely scrap that and resurface it again. So you were basically like almost reset a whole year back in terms of the track evolution. Well, now you've had another year And there's going to be some other support races going on. There's also, I know F1 Academy will be on this weekend, so you can cheer for the upcoming female drivers in that as well. So there's definitely going to be other support races, and there's going to be stuff going on at the track throughout the course of the day. So if you happen to have a ticket, enjoy, wear some sunblock, and stay hydrated if you happen to be going, because it's definitely going to be on the warm side. We have been at circuits that have been warm. I have been at many circuits that has been very warm.
God,
So
every year I've gone with you to Austin, it's, the race is in October. So every year I go with you, I sit there and think it can't possibly be that hot again, right? And then it's like 90s in the sun with no shade, and it's a little rough. So yeah, if you're going to be at this Miami race, be ready for the heat.
it will always, none of that though will always pale in comparison to the Nashville Street Circuit for IndyCar the first year in August. Whose bright idea was it to put that track in August? I don't know that I have ever sweated that much in my existence. I didn't think I could. You couldn't even get drunk because you were literally sweating it out. It was that bad. But anyway, long more stories of racetracks. But anyway, we will be back on Sunday, possibly, hopefully Sunday evening, to recap all of the action from the Miami GP. We'll recap all the sessions. So until then, enjoy this weekend. So for Cody, it's been Andy. Take care of yourselves. And as always, may all your laps be fast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Outlap F1 podcast. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect with us outside of the show, check out our website at www.outlapf1.com. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at OutlapF1 Podcast, or email us at chatnow@outlapf1.com. As always, thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.